Welcome back to another podcast. I'm joined with Oscar once again on a new platform, and we've upgraded. We've got that little bit, a little tang to it now. We're getting better. We're looking more professional. Anyway, I'm joined with Oscar. How's it going?
It's going great. The fights this past weekend were a little strange, but this weekend, I cannot express my excitement for this weekend. But let's get it on to the fights from this past weekend.
Yeah. We're splitting up our podcast. We're going Mondays will be a recap day. Tuesday actually. Is it today? Tuesday? No, it's Monday today. Mondays will be a recap day, and then Thursdays will preview day. Mondays will be recorded. Thursday will be live on air. So make sure you tune in. Roughly 8 p.m. UK time. I'm not too sure what that is in America. I'm sorry.
I've got no clue.
Yeah, maybe 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Yeah, I'm not too sure what time zone either you're in, so I can't really talk about that
Central.
either. Central, okay. Moving on to the fights. We'll kick off at the start if you would like. The main event, Gane versus Rozenstruik. How did it go?
Yeah, this was a very uneventful fight. We just learned that Gane can point fight when he needs to, and that Jairzinho really needs to work on his volume. Jairzinho was just looking for the bomb the entire fight. In the opening fight, we saw him land that fight with 4 seconds, land that bomb with 4 seconds left in the fight, and Gane watched that fight and he says, "I don't want any of that. That's too much for me to handle." So he played it safe and he point fighted exactly how you thought it would go. You know, I do believe that Gane still needs to work on his skill set. He was fighting a guy who was basically all stand up, and I do think that a guy like Curtis Blades could give him real problems. So I wouldn't say he's ready for the title fight, but I do think a guy like Volkov would be a great matchup.
Yeah, a lot of people, weren't very impressed with the fight, but I thought it was a composed, sensible performance from Gane. I thought he looked good out there. I thought, he controlled it very nicely, controlled the fight, dedicated the fight, pushed Rozenstruik back. We saw in the fifth round, Rozenstruik got a little bit more active, a little bit more desperate, but Gane controlled the fight, the whole of the fight, 50-45 on the scorecard. I was more impressed with that performance than I probably would have been with a 1 minute knockout, because we see it with heavyweights like most of the time 1 minute knockouts. But I like to see a composed heavyweight, a guy that sticks, point fights. That really lives highly up to me, because I feel like that guy can really challenge the elites at the top of the division. For example, Stipe, Ngannou, I think he would have great success against them, but will he be able to beat them? That's a different story. But we'll get on to that if it ever happens down the future. But he's a real, he's a real heavyweight contender, and I think he could really, mix up a little bit up there with the big boys. But yeah, this fight, Rozenstruik wasn't active enough. He just didn't throw his punches. He just seemed timid. He said this before the fight. He said that he was going to look to try and get his undefeated streak. Nowhere in the fight did I believe that he was trying to win that fight. I feel like he was there just for the occasion. But this guy gets a lot of main events because he is the heavyweight. A lot of heavyweights recently be getting loads of main events because they're the heavyweights. They got that knockout power. We saw it last week. But yeah, this fight, I was disappointed with the performance for Rozenstruik. I thought he'd maybe try and push the pace a bit more. Didn't do so. And Gane point fighted and ran away with a victory. Impressive performance from Gane, in my opinion.
Yeah, I do believe that Gane is going to be champion one day if, Ngannou and Curtis Blades retire. This guy's the future. He's undefeated. He's got great cardio, as you saw, and he's well-rounded. I thought he would get the takedown and submit him, but Jairzinho's takedown defense held up, which made me very nervous because Jairzinho just needs 1 second to land that bomb, and he didn't that night, and he needs to learn from that. It kind of reminds me of Chaos Williams' performance against Michel Pereira last year. He was just looking for the bomb the entire fight, and the other guy was landing the leg kicks. Just, he was hopping around. He was much bigger, too. I think Jairzinho might be lying about his height. That guy's not 6'4". You saw in the octagon that Cyril Gane is much bigger.
Yeah, Gane is a massive unit at heavyweight. Think about it, this guy has been training for MMA for 3 years. I only had 8 pro fights, and look how good he looked. Composure, the maturity of Gane already at such a young, place he is in career. It impressed me so much. This guy's got a lot of talent in front. Like, we've got a lot of talent in Cyril Gane. I'm impressed with him, and I'm excited to see, where he goes from here. As you said earlier, a matchup with Volkov. That would be good. I would love that. I think Volkov would be a guy who presses the pace.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Volkov would do that. Volkov is not that one-punch guy like Jairzinho. Volkov is more of a volume guy. He likes to break you, and that would be intriguing. Volkov can fight for 5 rounds as well, as we saw against Verdun. He got that finish in the Blade fight. He was exhausted. Forget it got wrestled. But that fight would play out on the feet, and I think it would be a blast to watch.
Exactly, 100%. Well, we had a really good co-main event as well. Nikita Krillov versus Magomed Ankalaev. A fight that really impressed me. I thought this was a little bit of a good step up in competition for Magomed. And Nikita Krillov, first round, he was looking good. And maybe he even nicked that round on the scorecards. But, Magomed Ankalaev showed, his quality, how good he is. Came out stronger in them last 2 rounds and looked as impressive. His wrestling is completely on another level to these guys. And I'm so excited to see. He's only 28 years old. Both men were 28 years old. Ankalaev was the older man in the ring. But yeah, incredible. I'm excited to see where Magomed Ankalaev goes in the future. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. His striking's improving. But what's your thoughts on Magomed Ankalaev's performance?
I got really nervous in the first round because Nikita Krillov had a great first round, and I bet a lot of money on Magomed Ankalaev. I was supremely confident in his ability to win this fight because he was better in the stand-up and his grappling was superior, as we saw later. But Nikita Krillov got the best of him early on, and I thought we were heading in the direction of a Nikita Krillov win by unanimous decision, but that wasn't the case. As we saw, Magomed Ankalaev can adapt as the fight goes. He can face a little adversity and change things up he can out-grapple, he can out-strike you, and that's what he did here. And I do think that Magomed Ankalaev will be in a title fight within a year, and we cannot count on Nikita Krillov either. He showed that he could make a fight competitive with anybody. He's got a really good skill set, and he's not even 30. That's what really surprised me about him. He's balding. He looks older than he actually is, and he's got tons of experience to go with it. 21 first-round finishes. That's insane. And Magomed Ankalaev was able to beat him that night, and that shows you just how good Magomed is. And Magomed should get a good matchup next. Possibly the winner of Anthony Smith and Jimmy Crute.
If that's a great matchup between them two, if Smith wins that and manages to get past Crute, because Crute is a dangerous guy at 205 pounds. We've seen that in his last fight against I interviewed him recently. He's got a really hard now. Modestus Bukalkas. We see it in that fight. That was a good pronunciation, by the way. But I won't evolve on that. We'll keep moving. Jimmy Crute. He's lost. His only loss was against was it Misha Serkinov?
Yes, it was. Yeah, and he nearly finished Misha, and Misha pulled off that Peruvian necktie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the worry of for me heading into this fight. If Crute, we've seen it in the past. Smith being able to hang on, being able to survive, but also we've also seen Smith in that first round always looking dangerous. We saw it against Shogun. Almost finished that fight, got too tired. In my opinion, this fight is going to be all about cardio. Who's going to be able to last longer? And I'm going to favour Crute in that matchup, but we'll get onto that once that fight comes along down the line. But yeah, incredible performance from Magomed Ankalaev. Outstruck Krillov. We saw him out wrestle. We see that control time there, 5 minutes and 59 seconds. You might as well call that 6. But Krillov attempted 6 takedowns, only got 1. Ankalaev got 3. Outstruck Krillov by a margin, not a margin, quite a distance. We see there 89 at 143, 58 at 132. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see where Magomed and Goliath goes from here. If it is Anthony Smith, the winner of them two, that would be a good matchup. But before that, we had Montana De La Rosa and Bruno Silva, a fight that went to the scorecards. And who do you reckon earned the who do you reckon earned the nod that night?
Well, it was a draw, but if it wasn't for the fence grab in the first round, this would have been Bueno Silva's fight. Of course, De La Rosa appeared to have an advantage in the strength department, but Bueno Silva was the one doing more damage in the clinch. In fact, she landed a nasty elbow in the third round and it nearly finished her, and had a big old hematoma on her head that De La Rosa was hiding, which I think that was a smart decision on her part. Because who knows? We've seen fights get stopped for lesser hematomas, and I think that De La Rosa showed that she can hang with dangerous grapplers. Even somebody like Bueno Silva, who submitted Jillian Robertson. I expected this to be on the feet, and it was because Bueno Silva's takedown defense was so good. It mainly took place in the clinch against the fence, and Bueno Silva was landing those knees and elbows constantly and doing more damage. I think that would have been her fight had it not been for the first round red scratch. Do you agree?
I do. If that French grab wasn't, if she didn't get that point taken off her, it would have been her fight. It was her own doing that she lost that fight. Well, not lost the fight, she got a draw. So both women kind of win. Yeah, as you said there, takedown defense was on point in that fight. 3 out of 12 takedowns she landed, which you're thinking she did land some, but it's 3 out. She stuffed 9 of them. Once Montana Rosa did get that fight to the ground, though, we saw that control time, 9 minutes and 12 seconds of control time for Montana De La Rosa. But Silva outstruck her. As you see there on the numbers, the official numbers. She got that submission attempt. I can't remember off the top of my head where that was. But we've seen it was a majority draw. If she didn't get that fence grab, it could have been her fight to win. But before that, we'll move on. Before that, we had maybe a rematch that what phrase am I looking for? A rematch that lived up to the hype. The first fight with these two was an incredible fight, and boy, did they deliver once again. Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera. Get these two in a main event, 5 rounds on a fight night. Me and Oscar were talking about it before the recording. That would be incredible, and that is something I'm very fond of. Absolutely. These two men are warriors, and them leg kicks on Munoz, oh my days, they are vicious. A brilliant fight. Oscar, talk to me about it.
This fight was everything I wanted out of a fight between these two. We saw both come out, guns a-blazing. We saw Pedro Munoz throw bombs over and over again, and I thought that was his path to victory. But I was wrong. The calf kicks were, his main instrument in this fight. And we've seen these calf kicks become a bigger and bigger part of the sport. And, I do think guys need to work on the defense a bit, but then again, you can't check them. You have to just move. And Jimmy Rivera wanted to be on the offense, but in those last 2 rounds, he could not. He just had to take them. And he had really no answer for them. And his mobility was affected by it. And man, it was a great performance by Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz, I think Pedro Munoz should get that rematch with Rob Font. Rob Font is actually ranked at number 3, which is higher than Pedro. And Pedro submitted him in the first round last time. And I would like to see if Rob Font is at a higher level than he was in the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be an interesting fight to run it back again. And a very, very great fight between these two men, Jimmy Rivera, Pedro Munoz, put on a show, and it was very, exciting to watch, especially for me. 3 a.m. in the morning. That fight definitely kept me awake. It was brilliant to see, and I'm very fond. If they do go for a fight night main event, I wouldn't be saying no.
Yeah, this is a fight that I will definitely rewatch in the future. And that first round, I'm gonna nominate it right now for round of the year.
Oh, incredible! If you think about sequels, some of the fights don't really, live up to the hype. The first one's always better than the second one. Unless your name is Shogun or Dan Henderson, it kind of doesn't really work. But we've seen it in this fight, man. The second one did definitely live up to the hype. And we saw a fantastic fight between these two men. Credits to both of them. Both showed incredible heart. Especially Rivera, man. He took a lot of kicks and a lot of punishment in that fight, and he still kept on coming. He was looking for the finish. We seen it was struggle for him to get off up of the ground, get off of the stool. I mean, in some of the rounds, that leg was hurting. He was limping around during the rounds, waiting to come back. Vicious fight. Just violence between both men. I enjoyed it so much. But talking about a fight that I thought was going to go the other way was Alex Caceres versus Kevin Croom. I thought Kevin Croom was going to have this one in the bag. Not because I like him. He's such a great guy. Kevin Croom is one of the funniest guys in MMA. If you don't know who he is, search him up, get to know him, go follow him on his Instagram and on his socials. This guy is incredible. He's such a funny person. But yeah, moving on to the fight. I think in that first round, he just put everything into it. He was looking for them takedowns. And didn't really get the takedowns. As you see there, 1 of 16 takedowns. And that one takedown, he didn't really do anything with it. He just sat on top and, Caceres was landing shots from the bottom. So it was an interesting one because I'm not too sure what, the game plan of Kevin Croom was. But I feel like he just put everything into them takedowns. And when he eventually did get it, as I mentioned, didn't really do anything with it. And he almost got submitted with that triangle. It was incredible. That triangle was slick, and then Caceres let go of it, and he got out. But Croom was just on the feet. He was wild, sluggish. That could have been because maybe he was tired. His cardio might have went. But, man, I'd like to see Croom bounce back. But unfortunately, with the performance, it didn't really, impress me. But, man, he's such a nice guy. Go search him up on socials. But he looked done. After round one, he kind of looked tired, looked like his cardio abandoned him. And Caceres on the feet landed a lot of clean shots. Was it round 2 or round 1? Maybe he almost he looked staggered. Really hurt Kevin Croom on the feet. But yeah, after round 1, it was just all Bruce Leroy, and 4 in a row for Bruce Leroy. Let us mention that. I think that's the best winning streak of his UFC career. This guy, this guy was always win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Always goes back and forth, and he's put on a 4-fight winning streak. Incredible to see what he's done in his career, to bounce back like that. And, what's next for him? Maybe a matchup with Giga, maybe a matchup with Edson Barboza. That I'm very fond with. He said he wants a ranked opponent next. So that'll be an interesting one. But what's your thoughts on the fight? And where's Alex Caceres go from here?
Kevin Croom said this fight would not go to the third round, and he was wrong, but I know why he didn't want it to see a third round. It was clear that his cardio wasn't where it should have been, and he used all of his energy in those takedown attempts. And Alex Caceres' takedown defense has really improved since his previous fights, where he's just kind of taken down, submitted. Which I thought Kevin Croom would get a standing guillotine like it is in the Roosevelt Roberts fight, but that didn't happen here. He
The Americans have bad Wi-Fi. They're back.
Oh, all right. Yeah, that takedown happened once, and I believe that's where he almost got submitted. So it was an unfortunate night for Kevin Croom, and I think he can learn from it. James Krause was screaming his head off in the corner. You could hear him. He was telling Kroon to have more confidence in his stand-up, but when in that third round he was so gassed that he was just getting tagged over and over again. I was almost certain that Caceres was going to finish the fight, but Caceres, he took a safe route, and he had a 10-8 round in that third round, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. In that third round, Kroom just looked out of it. And even after the first round, Kroom just, his cardio just didn't look right there. And something he definitely would have to go back and work on. But man, he's such a great guy. I hope for the best of him, and hopefully comes back stronger. This is a great learning phase for him, and he'll definitely, come back with great motivation to win that next one. But yeah, talking about a great fight between two men. We saw Hernandez versus Thiago Moises. This was a brilliant fight, and I'm really impressed with Moises because he looked great on the feet. This guy's a brilliant jiu-jitsu fighter practitioner, and he looked amazing on the feet. His striking's improving. He was beating I thought Hernandez would have the striking advantage, and I was wrong. And the wrestling advantage I thought maybe might tip Alex Hernandez. I'm not too sure we saw much of that in this fight. No takedowns attempted on Hernandez, but one from Moises. But yeah, both men, I thought Moises looked great on the feet. It just seemed that Hernandez in the whole fight, Hernandez never looked in range. He was just always punching air. He just never looked in distance. Every time Hernandez tried to punch Moises, it seemed to never be home, and Moises would counter Hernandez. But I was very impressed with the Moises and how improved he was on his striking. I feel like Moises can be a real dangerous 155-pounder. This division is stacked. We've seen him in the best run on his form. Michael Johnson, Bobby Green, and now Alexander Hernandez. I feel that's a really great, 3-fight winning streak for him. I feel like it's going to set him up for maybe a bigger fight in the next one. What would I do next? Probably the loser of Drew Dober, Islam Makhachev. That would maybe make sense. That would be a good fight. But wherever he goes next, I'm fond of it, and I presume it will be a great fight because this fight, I've really enjoyed this fight between these two lightweights. But Moises looked great in this fight. 30-27 twice and 29-28. I presume the 29-28 was in the first round. Where Hernandez got that round. But other than that, Moises always looked in control. His striking looked brilliant. Hernandez was never in range at any point of the fight. His punches never seemed to landed. But yeah, great performance from Moises. What's your thoughts?
Moises' striking has improved substantially.
Yes.
In this fight with Michael Johnson, he actually got hit pretty well in that first round. And I don't think this version of Thiago Moises lets Michael Johnson get the better of him on the feet. Thiago Moises looks miles ahead of what he has in the past. I think this is a very dangerous guy now with improved stand-up. I thought his only chance of winning would be a submission, and he only got one takedown, and he really cared much for it. He was always looking to outpoint Alexander Hernandez on the feet, and that's what he did here. I don't know why Alexander Hernandez thinks he won this fight. He said, "I clearly won 2 rounds." I don't see an argument for it. He got outstruck, and Moises was the one, leading the dance. Especially in that third round, Moises was so ahead and so confident that he was out there, screaming, "Let's go, let's go!" He was so confident, and he just let his hands go. He was in the zone. Nearly reminded me of Max Holloway, what he was doing in there. Moises is going to be a contender in the future, and in one of his first UFC fights, I believe it's against Beneil Dariush, he lost to Beneil Dariush, and I think the rematch will be much more competitive. But I do agree with you. Give him the loser of Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober. Because Drew Dober, even though he's not ranked now, he was actually ranked because he beat Hernandez. But when Chandler got into the rankings, Dober got kicked out. So I say book that fight. Moises is one of the best in this division, and this division is super stacked. In any other division, Moises would be in the top 10.
Yeah, that's a bold statement, but I agree with it. I think Moises looked incredible that night. His striking, as you mentioned, it just looked incredible this night against outstriking Alex Hernandez, who we've seen in the past knocking everyone out. But yeah, a great performance from Moises. We'll move on to the next fight. Alex Davis defeated Sabrina Marzo via unanimous decision. And in this fight, we just seen Marzo have no explanation for the takedowns of Davis. It was just a heavy wrestling game plan from and Davis, and it works. We've seen 3 out of 3 takedowns were landed in the whole fight. 8 minutes and 50 seconds of control time for Davis. Incredible fight for incredible game plan as well. On the feet, we've seen early on Marzo had that advantage. Hit her a few times, but the takedown defense from Marzo needs to improve. We saw her got taken down 3 times out of 3. She got taken down at ease, but this will be an important fight for Marzo. She's going to learn a lot from this, and she'll come back stronger in the future. What's your thoughts on the Davis performance?
Alexis Davis won this thanks to her experience and superior ground game. Those leg kicks that she landed though in that second round showed that she can get it done on the feet too. I did not pick her because she's older. Her fight against Ronda Rousey, she got finished. So
She
I was
hadn't
just
fought for
guessing
about,
that
was it 3 years or 2 years or something like that? And
it
on a
was.
4-fight
I think it
losing
was.
streak.
Yeah, she hadn't won since 2017. I was
Yeah.
thinking this is going to be, in the Apex cage, we've seen legends get sacrificed to the MMA god, and that's what I was thinking would happen here. But Davis will not be denied. If you look at Davis's recent losses, it's a good competition. Jennifer Maya, Vivi Arroyo, and Kaylin Shukagian. That's nothing to be ashamed of. And Sabina Mazo is just not on the level of those other girls. And if we saw that Davis could win with those leg kicks and also just take her down and control her, Sabina Mazo is only 23, I believe. So she has time to improve. And I think she could be a contender in this division at some point. But I do think Alexis Davis should stay at bantamweight. These are two
Oh
fighters
yeah.
who went into bantamweight for this, and Davis looks much better and stronger at bantamweight, and I do think she could get ranked at some point at bantamweight.
Yeah, Sabina is 23, so this is a great learning curve for her. Very young in her career. This would probably be the best thing in her career that is going to happen to her because she's going to learn from this, and this will be the best thing that's going to happen in her career. But talking about best things happening in the career, we had an incredible debut. Ronnie Lawrence coming in against Vince Cashiero. How good was this debut?
Ronnie Lawrence looked like $1 million in this fight. I don't think you could ask for a better performance out of anybody. He landed an unbelievable amount of takedowns. This guy was all over Cachero. And also Cachero's takedown defense, that's it leaves a lot to be desired. Ronnie Lawrence basically took him down at will, and he also was able to strike him on the feet. And he eventually got that finish in the third round. And I was kind of bummed out because I did parlay Ankalaev and Lawrence by decision because Lawrence is not that much of a finisher. But Lawrence was saying he was gonna get this highlight reel finish, and he got it here. He got that nasty ground attack, and I personally believe that was somewhat of a late stoppage. He landed a couple punches too many, if you ask me. Did you think it was a late stoppage?
100%. I think he took way too much punishment in that fight. If you look at 102 out of his 151 strikes landed, Vince, let's put this in perspective, only landed 23 in that fight. So he got outlanded massively. And 8 out of 9 takedowns landed from Ronnie Lawrence. This guy, to see where he could go potentially in the division, think about the 135-pound division. This is another guy that's getting added to the lists and lists of prospects and killers that we have in this division. But where would you like to see Lawrence go from here? A potential matchup at 135 pounds. Who would you choose him to go with?
At 135 pounds, there is so many options right now. We see guys like Adrian Yanez come through and look unbelievable. The contender series, the last season of the contender series, we've seen some great talent come out of there. I'm not too sure. Maybe Nathaniel would be a good matchup for him. I think that would be a fascinating matchup. Lawrence has actually been called special by Dana White. Dana White does not call a lot of people special, but Lawrence didn't wrestle in high school or college, and yet he has this elite wrestling. Just like John Jones. Never mind, John Jones was in junior college wrestling, but we see Lawrence have this great wrestling, and Lawrence hasn't even been training that long. I think Lawrence could be a contender at some point.
Yeah, I've got a fight in mind. I'm throwing it out there. What do you reckon about this, eh? Ronnie Lawrence versus Umar Nurmagomedov.
Wow, sign me up, sign me up. That's a matchup that makes a ton of sense, and it would also test Lawrence's wrestling defense. And two guys that love to kick, and man, that's a recipe for a fight of the night.
100%. That would be the fight I would book next if I was Dana, but unfortunately, I'm not. But anyway, the first fight of the evening, we had a weird one, a bit of a close one between Dustin Jacoby versus Maxim Grishin. Dustin Jacoby got the nod that night, but a lot of people thought it could have went Grishin's way. What are your thoughts on the judges?
I thought there's an argument for this to be scored as a draw because Grishin nearly finished the first round, and those techniques are not used that much by the judges. They were used a couple of times tonight, but I do think you could argue that Grishin got a 10-8 round in the first one. He almost choked him at the end of the third round, but those next two rounds did not go smoothly for him. Jacoby was beating him up with those, I don't remember if it was a calf kick or a regular leg kick, but he was punishing him over and over again on the feet. And Grisham looked huge, huge. It doesn't surprise me that he fought Marcin Tybura at heavyweight. He looks massive and he missed weight for the first time in his 30-something fight career. I do think that Jacoby Jacoby has gotten better in the MMA game overall. I was thinking maybe his wrestling defense would be not be the best because his time spent in just practicing and stand up, but he looks pretty good in there, and he spars with Anthony Smith, and we know how good Anthony Smith is. And Anthony Smith says that Jacoby presents a lot of danger to him on the feet. I think Jacoby versus Jamal Hill and versus the winner of Jamal Hill and
Craig.
Paul Craig.
Mm-hmm.
That's a decent matchup if you ask me.
These matchups are coming thick and fast. That's a great matchup. I like it. But yeah, talk about the fight quickly. I think it was a very close fight. As you said there, Grishin, huge at 205 pounds. Well, should we call it 205 pounds or should we call it 210? Well, it's 4.5 pounds over the limit, which just it kind of just tells you how big this guy is. At 205 pounds, he's massive. Used to fight heavyweight, kind of came down. His UFC debut was against Marcin Tybura at heavyweight. But yeah, a great technical fight from both men. I thought in round 2 and 3, Grishin kind of got the best of it. I thought round 1 could have went either way. I think Grishin landed that more significant and more meaningful strikes in the fight. But man, a close fight could have went either way. It's a decision that I'm not really annoyed about because it's a really close fight. You can't really call it a robbery because it's a close fight. As I think Michael Bisping put that perfectly on the broadcast. He said, if it's a close fight, it's not a robbery, and this was a close fight, so it's not a robbery. It could have went either guy's way, and unfortunately, that night the judges thought it went Jacoby's way. Unfortunately for Grishin, so a great fight between both men, and a great way to kick off the card as well.
Yeah, there was only one finish on this card, and that was Ronnie Lawrence's third round finish. But this one was nearly finished on many times. The Jamie Rivera Pedro Munoz fight, that was exciting. I wouldn't say this was an uneventful card, but in comparison to the other ones, it just wasn't as good. But man, oh man, will this weekend make up for that card?
Yeah, exactly. A great way of putting it. But this weekend, if you don't know, what are you doing? Anyway, we shall quickly introduce it before we kind of move on. Main card starts at 3 a.m. over here in the UK. I'm not too sure when it starts over there in America. You're gonna have to tell me that one.
3 a.m. 3 a.m. Eastern. 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 9 p.m.
9 p.m. Oh man, that sounds so good to be an American right now. I tell you that. Anyway, here it is. UFC 259, Blachowicz versus Adesanya. Adesanya stepping up to light heavyweight to challenge Jan's belt. Will he get it done? We're not too sure. We shall see. Will he be the favorite going in? Probably most likely. Adesanya stepping up and yet is the taller man. Has that reach advantage. We see his significant strikes landed per minute. That goes Adesanya's way. Significant strikes accuracy that goes Jan's way. How interesting is that? Because we see how Adesanya, how clinical he is on the feet. If you make one mistake with him, it could be lights out. So apparently Jan Blachowicz lands with more accuracy on the feet. That's interesting.
This is much more of an interesting matchup than people think it is. People are assuming Adesanya is he's gonna get that second belt easily. No, Jan Blachowicz has seen it all. I thought his fight with Jacare Souza told us a lot about him because in the fight with Thiago Santos, he got put away, and I think Adesanya definitely can put him away. But if you remember, Jan Blachowicz went to American Top Team before that Jacare Souza fight, and who did he train with? Thiago Santos. He learned all of his weaknesses, and he looked much better in the Jacare fight, even though I personally think he lost the Jacare fight. If this plays out on the feet, Adesanya should get this done, but you cannot underestimate the clinch and the ground game of Jan Blachowicz. A lot of people don't know this, but Jan Blachowicz has more submission wins than knockout wins in an MMA. And if he gets Adesanya down, I think that's a real possibility. Jan Blachowicz by decision is not as likely because Adesanya will probably be the more active fighter. But right now my pick is Adesanya by decision. But we'll preview this fight more in depth later this week.
Yeah, Thursday night, put it in your calendars, put it in your notebooks, because we'll be going live, me and Oscar. We'll be talking about the preview of UFC 259 live on YouTube, MMAUnhinged, the only way you can see it. But yeah, incredible fight that we have this weekend. Adesanya stepping up to light heavyweight. But, go watch Embedded, episode 1 just dropped. It'll be interesting to see. I watched Countdown yesterday. Countdown always gets me excited. I love Countdown.
Yeah, there's no thing like a UFC pay-per-view week. The hype is just insane for me every week. It's rare that I just don't get this feeling in my stomach that something big's about to happen. And the Countdown always gets me ready, Embedded as well.
Yeah, I'm not too sure who the voice of it is in the background, but that guy's incredible. He needs a pay rise.
I think the guy's last name is Goldman. I'm not entirely sure.
He's incredible, by the way. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he's the voice of the UFC. They say Bruce Buffer's the voice of the UFC, but Buffer's like the announcer of the UFC. But he's the guy that sets the scene at the beginning of the pay-per-view.
He does the press conferences when they're coming onto the stage. He does everything. That's when it comes to videos. That guy's in the back. His voice is incredible. It's just so he makes the fight. When you're watching Embedded, he just makes it not Countdown. I mean, he just makes it so much better.
Yeah, it's like a movie trailer.
100%. Anyway, we'll wrap this one up. Rozenstruik versus Gane. The recap. A great night fight. The main event went Gane's way. A decision and outpointed Rozenstruik. But until next time, UFC 259 coming up this Saturday. We'll be going live on Thursday. Make sure to check that out. Make sure to check out the audio. If you're an audio listener, check out the interview that us and Hubbard that will be coming this week. And also, if you're a YouTube listener, go listen on our audio platforms or etc. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc. Anyway, this has been me and Oscar. This has been our recap from Rozenstruik versus Gane. Thank you very much and have a nice day.